The Aloha Hour with Johnny and Dewey.
All right.
I love it. What a great way to start the morning.
What a great
This is our
day.
first morning podcast, right?
Actually, we did one with Anu Hea. It was a morning one.
Yeah. Was that 9 in the morning, though? I don't remember.
It was 11.
It was 11. That's
We were
what-
drinking anyways.
Yeah, more so lunch. All right. What an honor, Cliff.
Well, today we're gonna, as usual, we're gonna have a very interesting guest, and actually we're pretty lucky to get him because he lives on the Big Island. Accidentally or coincidentally, he was here on the island. We were able to get in touch with him and bring him over here. He is a surfer. He is a scientist and a native Hawaiian. He earned his PhD in the University of California, where he studied biotechnology, bioengineering, and chemistry. His work focuses mainly on ocean conservation and sustainability, and one of his best-known projects is the Surfer, I hope I pronounced it right, Biome Project, where he studied the microbiome of surfers around the world. He currently studies coral health at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. He is an ambassador of the Save the Waves Coalition and several other ocean conservation nonprofit organizations. He is been profiled in several surfing outlets, including Surfer Magazine and the Surfers Journal and many others. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Cliff Kapono. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I'm so stoked to have you. Just a quick shout out to Barack Maor, who made it happen. Barack was telling me, you have to talk to this guy. He is amazing. He is smart. You have to talk to this guy. I talked to Dewey. I tell Dewey, yo, you know Cliff Kapono? He's like, hell yeah, I know Cliff Kapono. We should
I
get him on
stalked
the
the guy. I stalked the guy.
I stalked the guy. We should get him on the show.
Yeah.
And guess what? Less than a month later, we sit with Cliff Kapono from Hilo. How you doing, brother?
Good. It's a real honor to be here,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I feel like I don't even deserve to be a part of the crew.
Oh,
of all the guests that have been on here.
stop. We're out of money. Got no more money. All we got is Leonard's and free tea.
No, honestly, a lot of people that heard that we're going to have you on were super, super excited. I think you bring a different edge, to the whole Hawaiian conservation, ocean, the connection. You just bring a different aspect. I think, the beautiful thing that you were able to kind of connect between science and tradition. And even though those are two things that kind of, I would say, against each other, you were able to kind of bring him beautifully to life. So tell us a little bit about your story, just for the audience to get to know you, where you were born, how you started your path, and then take us to how you decided that you want to go into science.
Okay, wait. Before you start, I have a lot of people ask me first, are you single? Yes or no?
Not single. No.
Okay. Sorry, ladies. Okay, now you can go on.
Have been a very happy relationship.
Yay! All right. Is she the one?
For sure.
Okay,
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
awesome.
Right
Love
on.
have found you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I guess for things start off, I was born on this island in a place called Ko. I think now it's by like Honolulu Harbor, Nu'uanu, Queens Medical Center.
Yeah.
And I spent my first few years of my life in Kailua on the east side of Oahu. And then my family moved to the Big Island, Hilo, and then I've been in Hilo ever since. So pretty much raised very Hawaiian style, a lot of teachings from family and extended family and a lot of time outside. And I think my dad was very intentional about giving myself and my sisters a strong cultural perspective and an appreciation for where we come from. And I think that just it was pretty normal. Like, I don't think it was anything that was out of the ordinary for us. And then it wasn't until I went through like Kamehameha schools and started speaking to people who maybe didn't engage with Hawaiian culture as much, and I realized that it wasn't as normal as I thought it was to really want to learn your culture, your history, and your your ancestry and things like that. So that kind of helped me to, I don't know, appreciate it, I guess, more, because I kind of felt that the more I started to travel and visit other places around the world, there was this kind of longing for identity from a lot of people in the world. And sometimes it made me feel pretty sad, you know, like that they were looking for something. And that also kind of brought my awareness to why maybe so many Hawaiian people get pinned as like aggressive and violent, especially males, Hawaiian males. Like this aggression and violence, I think it's kind of more attributed to the inability to articulate that frustration that a lot of us carry from that intergenerational trauma that is from our parents, that their parents gave them and their grandparents, you know, stretching back, you know, to the mid 1800s, when our society as Hawaiian people, as a kingdom, was being changed dramatically, economically, socially, religiously, environmentally, you know. And I think there are a lot of amazing Hawaiian scholars and local people here that are trying to share those stories. You know, I think what you folks are doing here on this podcast, it's pretty amazing that it's bringing insight into Hawaiian people, local people, a real passion in what they believe in. And that's so reflective of the history. Is we're so passionate, you know. And I think when you move here and you start to live it, you see that. And that to me is the biggest work I'm trying to do, is just celebrate my identity and my people's identity, and also celebrate how proud I am of being from Hawaii.
Hell yeah.
Wow. It's so.
Don't cry, Dewey.
Yeah, I know. I know. Sorry, I cried.
Keep it together.
No, because when you say things that just move me, you're like, it's so powerful what you said. Because I think a lot of times, you know, we get so stuck in our lives, you know, as you know, we think human is like we're the best species in the world. You quote something in one of your thing, and I thought it was so powerful. That fancy PhD word, anthropod.
Oh, anthropogenic?
Yeah, anthropogenic. Yeah.
I should have maybe.
Yeah, that was a PhD.
No. I actually have poor vocabulary.
Yeah, but transcendent trauma is so powerful. I read a book a while ago to talk about the history of kind of society, right? And you're right. As Hawaiian men back in the day, we're warriors. You know, so the DNA that passed on for 1,000 years, it lies within us, right? But also that deep love and aloha culture that also lies within us. And through time, what you're saying, I'm hearing you right, like acknowledge the fact that you have both in you, right? And it just, how do we continue to reach inside and understand the anger, understand the natural warrior spirit that we have as Hawaiians, but also understand, also we inherit this deep love, right? And I think what I'm hearing from you, I finally discovered that I have both.
Yeah.
And now it's about education, the world, the beauty of the culture, and it has both.
Yeah.
But a lot of time people don't understand that. Same to you, you know, as a Israeli, you got to think your culture been battling for thousands of years, and it's part of you who you are too. And a lot of time you don't see that.
That's why I think that you know, the Israelis and the Hawaiian have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Because we're you know, small, got, you know,
rejected,
killed,
discriminated, right?
People
the land,
didn't like
you
our
have
land.
No home. Yeah.
They didn't like our language.
Yeah.
They didn't like the way we live.
Yeah.
They didn't like anything about us.
Right.
And I think this is something that we have in common with the Hawaiian. That's why I feel so related to them, because they also had that struggle for years.
Yeah.
Like the whole, you know, hundreds of years you had the struggle, and we the Jews, we had to.
I see that as well too. I have a lot of friends that are from Israel or have ancestral roots from there on the maternal side. Yeah. So I guess there's like a distinction between where your bloodline falls. But it's funny, even in the Hawaiian culture, we're a more maternal society. So we look very much, and actually my dad is the Hawaiian, my mom is not Hawaiian. So when I look back to my genealogy, I go most typically my dad's mom, and we trace ourselves back just because that line holds a little more history and for our family. But same, we celebrate similar traditions, and same, I see that solidarity between the people of Israel, and I very much like see that with the Hawaiian people. Like I remember one time I was in Texas, and it was during some opposition of this 30-meter telescope on the Big Island, and he was wearing a Kukia Imauna shirt, and I just seen him from across the food trucks, and I just like threw him the Kukia Imauna, and he came over, and you know, it was like there's a solidarity just in being like a person from which you feel like you belong, and I think that's something too that I try to do now is I try my best to provide some type of pride in people's own culture. Like every culture is so cool. Every from like Moroccans to, you know, Peruvians to the Inuit, like everyone's culture is like so amazing and so important. And I think we're moving very rapidly into this kind of like homogenous world culture, which people are like, no, we're one culture, one love, one planet. And I'm like, we are one love, one planet, but I want to keep the diversity, the cultural diversity. I think it's so important. Like, I mean, I love Vietnamese food, you know. I mean, if that was gone and
hey,
we were
listen,
just all,
you come over anytime. I'll make you dinner, lunch, you name it, I got you. Anytime. Yeah. Next time you're here, just let me know. Yeah. Your upbringing wise, you know, you went to Kamehameha. Did you have any idea you're going to be like a scientist one day? What was your mental frame mind, and what was your father, your parents influence you at all when you were in Kamehameha, when you were?
Yeah, my dad probably was, and my mom too. She supported me as well. I think very much my dad, he was like the authority on like your perspective moving forward is this, and he was very.
That is so beautiful. If I would come to my dad and I would tell him I want to be a scientist, he would have been like, darling, your son has fever. Someone treat this kid.
He fell off the bed last night.
Yeah, it was actually my dad was the one who introduced me into science, and
wow,
something that I remember from a young age. Me and my older sister, we were at Kailua Beach, and we were walking along kind of by the boat ramp, and then the limu washes up all the time over there. I don't know if it still does, but I remember there's all this limu, all like red and brown and green limu that used to come up, and my dad was showing us all like the Hawaiian names of the limu, and then he would say like the scientific name, but which it's not really super. Now that I think back, it wasn't like really super accurate, but he was, you know, using Latin to describe the seaweeds that are washing up the shore, and he was also using Olelo Hawaii to say it too. So that just helped me to see like science to me wasn't a one culture, one ethnicity, one race type of perspective. It just was another language. And once I started to be able to learning that a little bit more, I wasn't really like, I'm going to be a scientist. I just was, I forget when it was, but at some point something clicked in me that it's difficult to explain my cultural identity to someone who has never been to Hawaii. It's like so hard to even describe. Like people are like, what does aloha mean? And it's like, okay, it's so difficult to explain, but so easy to show. You just gotta be here and it'll make sense. And I didn't know how to articulate it, but science provided me with this like language, and I was able to get through all the different barriers that people were having in understanding like what Pele is, or like what Kanaloa is, or you know what is, you know, Olelo no Eao and things like that. It's like so like mystical for people and magical, but I didn't want it to be, because I wanted to normalize the Hawaiian perspective across Hawaii. Like it was normal before. Why is it like rare for a Hawaiian to be able to know where they come from and where they're going and share that with people if we're not getting paid for it at the luau or something like that, you know? Like, so science was just that way to like, you know, it was like a way for me to do that, and it gave me more of like a sense of like self-worth, self-value, you know, because like I came from like a sheltered Hawaiian kind of family where we're very proud to be Hawaiian people, but once I left, it became this whole like different world. Like, wow, like being a Hawaiian wasn't normal, and it started to turn into many different things, and science just helped me to keep like that steady course to be like,
you know, it's super interesting that science was able to that got you to keep that course? Because technically, in the Hawaiian culture, you believe in different gods, the god of Pele, like you mentioned, god of fire, god of this, which is kind of contradicts science.
Yeah, because I think the more conventional scientists want to fit this perspective into the way they've been taught, which is the only barrier. Because if we just think about like the water cycle on the island, like we have different gods for different waters. Salt water is Kanaloa, fresh water is Kane, and then on the Big Island especially, we have these goddesses who are the water bearers that help to transport this water from fresh to salt between Poliahu, you have Lilinoi, Waiau, and for us, we're talking about stories of relationships, but really it's scientific because we're talking about the hydrology of the island. We're talking about how the evaporation goes up into the mountains.
So basically, what you say
condenses.
that the Hawaiian people took the actual science, and they just, because they didn't have science back in the day, they just contributed to gods and whatever. But it's basically the same, like this. The thing that is happening is the same that happened back then and happens today.
Yeah, they had science. They just didn't call it science. They
Yeah.
called it life, like, which I think people they trip on. Like, wow. And when it makes sense to them, like, okay, convection, like evaporation, like percolating waters and stuff like hydrology, that's all conventional language.
Yeah.
That is the same as when we say Poliahu or when we say, the waters of Kane. And, it just is in alignment with it, and once it felt more like purposeful, and it was difficult because I'm not the best student at all. I was on probation.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I don't know.
No,
I don't
like
buy that.
to be, and I think it's important to share with people listening that I was getting C's. I was like, C's get degrees. If I can just get passing grades, like, and not get kicked out of Kamehameha schools, like, I'm good. I was on probation a few times for different things, so I was never really the best.
I'm in the same camp.
I mean, it was something that I just like. I don't know. It felt purposeful, and my friends were surfing. Like, they were, at the time. I don't know how it's like at Kamehameha schools, Kapalama now, but at the time we couldn't surf. It was like, if you're a boarder, like because I'm from Big Island, I was boarding on Oahu. They were like, you can't leave during the week to go surf. So, I just...
What?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, the administration at the time that I was going to school.
Right.
You weren't allowed to leave unless you... I don't even think you could leave at all until you're a senior. So surfing for me was like, I felt like the weekend I had one day to surf. Well, I had 2 days, but the only bus going to Ala Moana was on Saturday.
Oh.
And we would get
So
on the
you
bus.
surf bowls?
Kaisers mostly,
Yeah.
growing up over here. But bowls for sure, but a
He's
lot
a
of
regular
Kaisers.
foot. He's a regular foot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, so people were surfing, and I was always surfing, and I was like, my friends at home started to progress, and I was like, okay, like I had to catch up in the summer when I could be home for the summer. So, I mean, the guys that were in my camp surfing at the time were like Tori Meister, guys like Casey Brown, Tonino Benson. They all kind of jump-started on a pretty quick professional surfing circuit, though some of them are not still surfing professionally. Guys like Tori Meister are, and I was just watching his level advance so tremendously, and even people in Hilo, Kevin Kapsky, Robert Patterson, like they were all picking up sponsors, going on the QS, doing these things, and they're like, I felt like we're surfing the same ways, like, in my mind, it might have not been reality. I was like, we're doing the same stuff, and it was difficult for me to like just not pursue, because I was like trying to hang on to like just being a part of that crew, and it was like a struggle when I would do a little like, I remember one time I went and did a contest at rest camps, like an amateur contest, and I just would enter in whoever didn't show up, random. Like Luke McLean, I remember he's my friend, but I was like, I'm Luke McLean, and I would like do the contest just to see like how I was doing against everyone under a different name, and they didn't check. Like it was like a bunch of kids, and
Yeah,
and
they don't check IDs at surf
Yeah.
contests, right?
No, and then like I remember like I would like just be different people and I like do the contest just to see where competitively where I was as things, and I was like I feel like I could do this, but if I would do well in the contest, under a different name or whatever, it wouldn't matter because I'd be like, look, I got the grip pad and the leash, or you get all the gear, so I would do it kind of for that too. But when I went home with like those types of achievements, they were just eclipsed by like getting an A in science. You know, like if I got like an A on the final exam, or I got an A in like biology or something, like my parents, my aunties, my grandparents, like they just were so stoked, and they were like to the point where like they were like crying, kind of like they were so proud of me. But when I brought home the a contest win, they were like, right on, cool. and I just felt this like obligation that if I was to try to be a pro surfer, I'd be letting down everyone, you know, because there's so few. Like when I was studying biotechnology at University of Hawaii in my undergrad, there was no Hawaiians in my whole field. Like I was the only one. And even when I went to University of California, San Diego, like I was the only Hawaiian in chemistry. I was like the only kind of like colored person in the whole department. I was getting like Hawaiian, Native American, black, like
Mexican.
I was Mexican. I was getting all kind of scholarships because it was such a, you know, you're the only person.
Oh wait, you're brown. Here's a scholarship.
Yeah, and it was like one of those things where people think, oh, that's so lucky, but you know, I got into the school as a candidate. Like I got recruited to go to this chemistry like graduate program, along with everyone else, like white people, Asian people. Like it didn't matter, and we all got recruited, and we all got 5-year full ride stipend.
Wow.
And it was like you got to go for interviews and all that kind of stuff. And I went there, and then people were just like, oh, but you're getting like the minority. Like you're here because you're brown. Like, you know, you still kind of get that like people feeling that way. And I'm like, I don't correct them, you know, because I was on there as a recruit, like no other. But once I was there, I was getting all these other things because they're just like, oh, we have no diversity in this department. Let's just give these things. And the scholarships, like my tuition and everything was already paid for, but like it was scholarships for like trying to get more colored people inside of the department or things like that. And I don't know, it was just a interesting way to do school, but kind of getting back to that idea of not wanting to pursue surfing, but feeling like obligated to do science. It just tore at me for like many years, and I was just like, I just felt like I'm gonna still dedicate my life to the ocean, to surfing. I'm not gonna let school, I'm not gonna let people telling me you got to give up this like hobby, quote unquote hobby, to do science. I was like, nah, I'm just not gonna hear it. I'm gonna keep doing my schoolwork. And I was closet surfer during college. Didn't tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to think that I was, you know, like.
Wait, hang on. You go to UCSD. You can't be a closet surfer because black is right there. The script here is right there.
Yeah, but the
Windancy's like down the street, and there's garbage subs and abs. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, the department I was in a pretty like. I feel people were like really competitive in that chemistry program. They're wanting to work for like Colgate and Exxon, and, you know, big biotech companies. So they're like, if you're not spending 80 hours a week in the lab on top of going to class, you're lazy, or you're not going to get the job. So I would just make sure I was present, got my work done, but I was surfing. Like I was trying my best to just, you know, experience new waves. You know, going down to Mexico up to Northern California. I started becoming friends with some surfers there who I kind of like looked up to growing up. Like Damien Hobgood became a good friend of mine out there, and I just met him surfing this one wave in San Diego.
Where? In San Diego? Where? What spot?
They get sensitive. It's this wave called Casa, but they get like super sensitive about it. You know, it's like a bodyboarder wave, but I don't know. The bodyboard, I grew up bodyboarding. Bodyboarders on the Big Island, we're one crew. It's not like there's this big divide in California, and this wave is like only for bodyboarders or not surfers, and it's like there's always drama in San Diego surfing for whatever reason. I don't care. It's like it's fine because we have a lot of those kind of waves on the Big Island. So I would surf, but then I met Damo, and he was just like, oh, Cliff, like, you want to go surf up the coast? And I just like, yeah. And then, you know, I'd look at my schedule like, oh, no, I got to, like, teach a class. Like, I was like, okay, get someone to sub for me. And then I would bail, and I started just surfing with, you know, like a lot of other people. I met some really good friends in Santa Cruz. I met people up in San Francisco, Half Moon Bay, Ensenada, Mexico, and like all central, like, you know, LA, Santa Barbara, and Cayucas, like so many good friends. And like the waves get so fun, and I don't know, it started to turn into this thing where they were like, what do you do? They just thought I just was like maybe trying to do surfing, because I didn't tell them about my science. The scientists, I didn't tell them my surfing, and I kind of just keep them separate. And I started getting a weird little bit of opportunity to do projects with surf brands and like kind of be a part of that, those surf, you know, opportunities, I guess, as I was going to school. And it all kind of came to a head is when my professor kind of pulled me into his office one day. And I got a little bit of like, you know, photo of the day, or, you know, like little things on like Surfline and stuff, surfing the local break or whatever. But like, California's got incredible surfers, for sure. And Hawaii's got incredible surfers too. So like, I think when there was like, you can be a small fish here and you can go up to somewhere where maybe people aren't as, they just don't have as much hours maybe in the water as maybe some people here. It's a lot more easier to stand out. So being from the Big Island, you know, going up there, I was like, I don't know anyone here. I'm not going to back paddle anyone, but if a good wave comes, I'm in position. Like, I'm going to go. That's cool. Some people didn't like that perspective, and I'm like, I'm not offending. If I'm offending you by getting a good wave, sorry, but I'm not gonna not get a good wave because it's offending you. You know. So I ended up getting a little bit of super small recognition up there for little places that I was going in.
He's so humble. I love
him. The local media, but my professor pulled me in, like he's like my mentor, like my boss, that gives me the degree, signs off, says, okay, you get your...
That's the German guy?
Dornstein.
Yeah, he's actually, he's from the Netherlands.
Okay.
Yeah, but Dornstein, Peter Dornstein. But he pulls me into the office and he's like, so have you been in the lab? And I was like, oh yeah, like 80 hours, so gnarly. And he's like, so you haven't been surfing? I'm like, surfing? You don't have time to surf when you're a grad student. Like, there's no way. And he just was like, what about this? And he like spins around his like computer and he like found some things in like the local whatever. And I was like, oh, who's that? And he's like, it's you. Like, you are sir. And I just was like, oh, what? I don't know who that person is. And
that's my Trin Prada. He's got a wetsuit neck tan line. He's like wearing turtlenecks. Yeah, Cliff. No, I haven't been surfing.
I was so pasty up there. I didn't even have to hide any of the tan lines. I had hoods and everything. But yeah, but then he told me, he's like, can you get this type of attention from my lab? And I was like, could I do it through surfing? He's like, yeah. Can you create a project that allows our science to be celebrated the same way your surfing is getting celebrated?
Wow, what a great guy.
So, I mean, that opportunity is where that Surfer Biome project came from. It just became like, you know, I kind of been separating surfing and science for so long in my life, and I was so like afraid to tell people about both of them. I didn't want the surfers to think, oh, Cliff, he just is like science. He's not like core. He's not nuts. He's not in charge. You know, I didn't want, I don't want them to be offended. You know, if I'm like, oh, he's smart. You know, because I mean, a lot of my peers didn't go to school. You know, which is not, to me, like, school is not for everyone, but education is, and I'm a firm believer in like, however you got educated, as long as you got educated, all power to you. I just chose school, and people sometimes get insecure about it for whatever reason, which is, I don't hate on it, but I just don't want to put them in that weird situation. Same with science. Like, I don't want these people who never leave a keyboard or a lab bench to feel like, oh, I can't even like paddle out on a soft top and catch a little like knee-high wave. Like, I don't want to make them feel bad. So and they don't see how you can dedicate large amounts of your time to academia and surfing. Like, for me, I just eliminated everything else. I eliminated partying. I eliminated traveling. I eliminated, you know, at one point eliminated really kind of maybe being there for like the people I cared about, you know, just because I was like, I gotta do this. But I kept it separate. And when Professor Dornstein was like, can you create something that meshes the two? And if you do, this is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting you to make the science look good. So it was like, it wasn't just like, oh, you know, go out and try your best. Like, he was we come from a very competitive lab where if you didn't produce, you're kicked out. You don't get your degree. So it was like, okay, everything's on the line. So that's when I was like, okay, I went back to my room. I remember just on a sketchbook, like, how can I create something that uses the technology I'm learning in university, but also applies surfing? And I came up with this idea of, I knew humans leave their fingerprints on the natural world, the built environment or whatever. Like, humans leave their fingerprints. And the new type of fingerprint that I was learning about was how do chemicals and bacteria act as fingerprints. Like, the microbiome, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but the microbiome is essentially all the different bacteria and fungus and protists, and some people think viruses that live in and on our body. And all our microbiomes are different and unique. So the technology we were developing was figuring out how I could swab different things around the room and see, okay, you know, did John touch? What did Dewey touch? And we can know that not by the actual fingerprints, but by the bacteria or by the chemicals that are unique to you. And it makes sense. Like, you're going to go home to your families and you're going to go beach, you're going to go one beach, you're going to go another beach, you're going to get different type beach bacteria. Yeah. You can use different soaps, you're going to use different face washes,
so you'll
whatever.
be able to differentiate if it's me or him based on the bacteria that we have on our body. And
yes. So that's what I was learning. So I was thinking, okay, humans are leaving this new kind of fingerprint around the environment. Does the environment leave a fingerprint on humans? Like, is it a two-way street? And that was something that is like a very Hawaiian, in my mind, Hawaiian way of thinking is like we don't really have a word for nature or environment, but the nature and everything natural is like related to us like a person somehow, whether it's a rock or a wind or a tree or rain. So to me, that relationship had to exist somehow. And maybe there's like certain kind of like ocean bacteria that leaves its fingerprint on us, and we can determine, that. And that was the project that I wrote down on a paper, and I said, I'm gonna try to find the ocean, the marine environment signature that exists on humans. Wow. And he was like, okay. And I was like,
as a non-surfer, right? Yeah. Okay.
And so I told him, I was like, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna get a cohort of individuals from different sample points, and I'm going to sample them. When they go to the ocean, I'm going to see if I can detect something, using the microbiome research, the technology that we're learning.
What are you taking to a piece
of
their skin?
I just took a Q-tip and I rub it on them. Like, bacteria is like, people think like bacteria is like you cover a mask with bacteria. like that mask is not preventing any bacteria from getting in. Someone lets out a fart, that fart bacteria is like going all in your nose. It's like, I mean, it's like, it's on that level where we just being around each other, we're sharing these signatures. So I just take a Q-tip and then I put it into the instrument. I do something that's called genome sequencing, which just tries to amplify the DNA, very similar to the COVID testing that's happening right now. They're looking for the virus. I would just look for whatever bacteria was there. Same technique, swab, but not. I did some nasal swabs and mouth and stuff, but mostly just skin I did. And he was like, okay, sounds good. And I told him, okay, well, I have, like, the places I got to go, like, the demographic is these surfers, because they're like super intense about immersing themselves in the natural environment. Like, I always tell people that's
so brilliant. You get to go surf on the best waves in the world.
Wait. You got funded to go surf the world for
2 years.
Yes.
For 2 years, and I got a degree from it. Like, so I mean, going back.
First of all, before you go back, you're fucking genius. Now you can continue.
No, I mean, some people think con artists.
I'm dying to hear the result later, but go ahead, keep going, because I'm dying to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, I told him, I was like, I gotta sample this population, and I just didn't really go too much into like where I was going. I was like, yeah, this is a good place. So I was like, he's like, okay, where do you gotta go? And I got a grant to travel to do it internationally. At first, we were only gonna do San Diego. Yeah. From Tijuana Slows up to like La Jolla, and then up to like Trestles or something, like just to see.
Just different breaks.
Yeah, different breaks. But once I submitted the application to this, like, it's called the Global Health Institute at University of California, they read it and they were like, we want this to be international. And I was like, oh, okay, if I got to do international, I guess. I was like, I got to go to Spain, to this Basque country called Mundaka, and I got to go to Agadir, Morocco. I got to go to Ireland. Like, I got to go to Peru or Chile. And I was like, Tahiti, Hawaii. And I just listed all these waves that I wanted to surf. And the funding kind of didn't allow me to go everywhere I wanted to go, but I was able to. In 2016, I went up and I was living in Europe, and I was in England for a bit. I went up to Ireland, went to Iceland. I was in Morocco for a while. To surf? Yeah, to sample, do science
and
research.
Swab.
Yeah,
Surf and Swab, that's the program.
Yeah.
SNS.
Yeah, there you go.
Surf and Swab.
Oh, Clive like Swab.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because I told him, I was like, the ethical way to do science, to make sure they are informed consent to provide the samples, I probably have to form a relationship with them so they understand that I'm not just extracting.
Fucking genius.
And then we would go out to the wave, and I would spend like 2 or 3 weeks just surfing the waves with them. Got to learn who the local people were, who are the people like
indigenous to that area.
But just out of curiosity, so you're flying to that spot, to the break, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get accommodation, whatever, but you don't know anyone.
No.
So you just go and surf, and through the surf you get to know with the guys, and then they hear you from Hawaii. They're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, well, it's the winter time, our winter time. So I'm up there. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "My island, we don't have point breaks. Like, we don't have like Honolulu style." So I was going to Morocco, and I was like, "What? This is insane! Like 15 point breaks for like 200 meters, like barreling on like sand." I'm like, this is insane. I stayed there the longest. I was like, I got to do more studying over here. But I would show up, like you said, I would just show up. I'd kind of reach out where I could, but usually it would just either go surfing, go to the pubs, and just be like, hey, what's up, everyone? Where's the good waves? And having that Hawaiian connection, they were very much like a lot of the people I met have been to Hawaii or have people who've been to Hawaii. And
it also gives you credibility.
Yeah,
if you would say that you're from New Jersey, they were like look at this fucker. Get the fuck out of
New
here.
Jersey's got some good waves and good surfers. But no, I mean,
look at Slater last winter in New Jersey.
Yeah, but I never led with the Hawaii. It was more like, here I just want to get some waves. And what can I do to like make sure? Mostly I didn't say anything actually. I just rolled up, and I would wait on the channel, wait my turn, and then, after the 3rd or 4th session, they were like. And people would thought I'm like Moroccan or like I'm Indian or whatever. They're like, hey, you, like, where are you from? I'd be like, oh, I'm from Hilo. They're like, where's that? Like, oh, it's this town in the Pacific. They're like, oh, Pacific? Oh, like Hawaii? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, what, Hawaii? And I was like, yeah, I'm from Hawaii. And then they'd be like, well, come over here. And then I'd, kind of like move in. But I never wanted someone to just want to be my friend because I'm Hawaiian. I wanted it to be more genuine. So my closest friends, it was just surfing, where they would come in and come up to me after, and they'd be like, hey, what's up? Like, we're gonna do this thing, you should come, and I've met now like lifelong friends in Ireland, in North Africa, across Europe, like just from their kindness that they shown me, and we get to become close, and then we surf for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'm like, hey, would you guys mind helping me? I'm trying to understand how nature leaves its signature on us, and you can help. Like, for sure, what do we got to do? I'm like, just let me like take a Q-tip and rub it on your face, your hands and stuff. And they're like, easy. So we'd all surf. Then I would get my sample kit out. Like, this is like after I got to know them and after we have like a good relationship. And then I'll just get all the paperwork, do just like a COVID test essentially on their body. And then I would submit it, put it in ice, ship it back to California on like FedEx or something.
Wow.
And that was it. And I was mostly trying to, the data I looked at was skin, but my lab studied doo-doo also, like as a proxy for gut. So they were like, you gotta take stool samples, and I'm like, nah, I'm not taking it. And then they're all like, if you want to do this, like, you gotta do it. So I'm like,
wait, so you're on a break, you just met those guys, you surfed them for 2 weeks, and then you got approached and like, dude, can you shit in a bag real quick?
Exactly. Oh my God. But it was more, that was always like get them to commit to be like,
Now
okay,
I
we're-
understand where you have to meet them first, be their friend first. I'm like, just a
Let me buy a
swab.
few round of
Yeah,
beers.
just a swab is easy, but stool sample. Now I got you.
But I wouldn't even tell them until the last, their hand, or
Yeah.
like, it was like always fun. Like I would do their, their belly button, their
Yeah.
pico, like guys or girls, they're always just like laughing. It was like
Yeah.
good fun. As they're laughing, I save them for laugh. Okay, this is second to last one. They're laughing like, what's the last one? I'm like, oh, so I don't know if you guys had some coffee or if you guys had something to eat, but we need some stool. And they're like shit, and I'm like, yeah, please, if you guys can. And everyone
In the name of
provided.
science, Cliff. I'm
Everyone-
so proud of you. man.
everyone was
In
like-
the name of science.
Let's
And then
do
you
it.
were FedExing shit back to America.
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah, it was.
This is. I love
it.
that story.
Yeah,
I love
it's
that story.
incredible. Like,
We should do a movie.
I'm going to use this line from now on when I travel. I'm going to have a bunch of swab because listen, I'm here in the name of science. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was like so fun to do that, and I just did it like the grant that I got, it just paid for my tuition. I wasn't getting paid extra. I wasn't like making money doing it. I was like, it was like pretty stressful actually. Like
No
going on-
surfing company sponsor at this moment and never
no,
help you at all.
no.
Wow.
I was Matty Rayner,
Yeah.
who lives up
Yeah.
in Kahuku now.
Yeah.
He's from Santa Cruz, but he moved to Hawaii when he was young.
Yeah.
He was helping me with surfboards.
Got
and,
it.
And
But that
during
was the only sponsor.
Yeah, he was, and I don't even know if it was more a friendship, you know,
Right.
like Maddie is like so great about listening to what someone wants to do on a wave, and,
Yeah.
and we're really good friends, and he was helping me to have surfboards, but there was nothing, like no sponsors, nothing, and I ended up, like the same story I told you, I came back and I'm doing my samples, and people are like, it got kind of word through the departments, like, oh, there's this surfer who's like using his degree to go on surf trip, but also doing pretty innovative science. So it was like
Right.
legit science, but this guy's like a surfer, and it had nothing to do, like, it was not like they're like, yeah, just surf spots, but like I was like, I want to go to like sample, like, what is it like guys at Mavs, what is it like at guys at Pai Mondaka, like I want to go to like the slabs of Ireland, like I want to be able to like, you know, like Anchor Point, like the best waves on the planet. I want to know what this does, because then it's like you're kind of getting a profile too of some of the best athletes kind of, you know, in the world as well. So when they heard about all this stuff, they did a little press release for the university, and then it got picked up by like all this like press that I didn't even know. Like people were calling me, and it went. It's like the stories that you hear, like the phone just keeps ringing, and you don't know who it's going to be. And it was like people from like New York Times, CNN, NPR, like I was like on the news, and like all kind of these news, and people were hitting me up for things like, and I was just like, yeah, I was surfing and, you know, trying to do some cool science, and the whole conversation was about human environmental interaction. What a fun way to talk about how humans are connected to nature through surfing and you know, microbiome metabolomic research. And yeah, it was like just crazy. And then I kind of got like a weird, like, now surf brands wanted to, you know, talk story and stuff like that. So I started to engage in some conversations around some surf companies, but I was a little bit insecure that I was getting into the surf industry as a scientist rather than a surfer. And I think now that I look back on it, I don't think I needed to have those feelings, but definitely at the time I was, because I try to hold myself to such a standard of like ocean proficiency, because my peer group is so incredibly talented.
Right.
Like, so many of my friends are like on the highest world competitive surfing championship tours, you know, and they're surfing the best waves, and they're on a very high level. And I wanted to, you know, I never wanted to like supersede them. I just wanted to hang, you know. I wanted to be in that conversation of people who are doing incredible things, and I wanted to be a part of it because I felt I was bringing so many people with me, you know, like ancestrally, and like my community, and, you know, coming from Hilo, like, now it's changing. You know, we have people like Shaden Pocaro, Mikey O'Shaughnessy, Uluboy Napeahi from Hilo, who, you know, were able to be a part of the professional surf industry. But like at the time, there really wasn't anyone pushing that, and I was like kind of like insecure, like, oh, am I going to be seen as the science nerd, and all the surfers are going to be like, oh, you cannot surf. And actually maybe some of the early partners that I had, they didn't even knew I surfed. They were like, well, you're a recreational surfer who's a chemist. And I didn't want to be one or the other. I wanted to be like high level on both. So when I started getting the sponsors, I worked very hard to prove to maybe myself that I can earn on my athleticism what I'm getting supported in, and it's not just. But I know that's a part of the equation now. Professional surfing is changing so much, where I think maybe that has helped me, I guess, to maintain the partnerships that I have currently over this time, because once I got those early partnerships, I just put all my time into showing, like, what as a company would you like this person to share with the rest of the surf community.
Right.
I very much wanted to be like of service to the surf culture and surf industry versus trying to be better than everyone else.
Right.
Like, there was a very, very much
more of a steward.
like I mean, I just wanted to that I was getting paid anything.
Right.
Like from a surf brand, I was like childhood dream. I mean, essentially, you know, and something that I kind of secretly had, but I felt maybe too embarrassed to say I'm on. Like, I give credit to the guys who are like, I'm gonna be a pro surfer at 14. Like, I'm gonna be a pro surfer, and that's that.
Right.
I'm at 14. I'm like, I'm going to figure out how electricity is to get turned off when I become an adult. You know, like I just had a different kuleana that I felt I was kind of put into. Yeah. So I never really, but inside I was like, yeah, I want to surf. Like I want to surf, you know, pipeline. I want to surf, you know, all these like different waves, and you know, to get to a point where now it's a reality for me to like, it's crazy because I don't even know how to even describe my job to people. Like, what's your job? Like, what are you? Like, describe. And I just say like, oh, I'm a surfer scientist. Like, what does that mean? It's like, I get supported to surf and to do science. And they're like, so like example, I'm like, I try to surf the best waves in the world and figure out a way to protect them. Like, that's what my day job.
That's beautiful.
You know,
That's so beautiful.
It's just, I want to celebrate that and show, you know, the youth that you can be a pro surfer, pro skateboarder, pro snowboarder, whatever, but also be able to do what you love and contribute on a massive level. Like, you know, I grew up with these like free surfers. It's kind of like the model that I went after, this free surfing.
Yeah.
And you don't have to compete in the competition.
The Rob Machado.
Yeah, exactly. That whole idea to me, you know, starting with like Margot, like, you know what I mean? Like, I looked at them, like Dave Rostovich and like,
Dave,
you know, Rob Machado, like those, that was like a model. And then you had some other unique individuals in surf culture, like, you know, Ozzie Wright, and, you know, even Dino Miranda, like, they were like these surfers who were also like artists or musicians. And I was like, I could be like a surfer and a science nerd on the side too, you know, like to me, it just all fit into this idea of, but it just didn't exist kind of at the moment. Now, maybe it kind of does, at least for me, it does. And I'm trying to tell people, there's people like Eski Britton. Eski Britton is this Irish big wave surfer. She's won XXL awards, and she has a PhD in environmental studies. And she's like the gnarliest charger. Like, she's so gnarly. Then you got like Yoni Klein. I don't know if you know who Yoni Klein is. He rides for Billabong Europe, and he's Israeli, and he's a medical doctor. Like I was just like tripping out. This guy, Max, I think his last name's Webston. He's from Australia, and he's getting a PhD in nanoengineering. He's like 20th on like the longboard tour, like, and he rides for O'Neill. And I'm like, the industry is celebrating and supporting individuals who choose school. It's, you know, it's gotta go home. Like, though, like I said, it's just another opportunity.
I think you know, when we did the research, you mentioned something very interesting that kind of ties into that. You said that, you know, when the professor sees a surfer, they immediately, he's not serious. They see you with
party.
They see you with red eyes coming to this. They don't even take the consideration that you just surf for 2 hours. They're like, this guy is stoned. I'm not even going to take him seriously. And I think the way that you portrayed a surfer for the first time, at least that I was exposed to, was a very educated, new age surfer. Yes, I surf those waves. Yes, I hang with who I need to be hanging with. But there's another side of me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not either or, the opposite. It's together.
Yeah.
and that is the new. You know, when you mentioned those guys, I'm like, pfft,
Yeah.
you know, this is how we should see surface. It's not either or. It's
Well,
in addition.
The guys that score, they're incredibly scientific. They got like Mark Healy, guys like Greg Long.
Oh, yeah.
Like these Ian Walsh. Like
Yeah.
these guys are freaks. Like they will not share their passwords for their like Surfline accounts because they have things pinned and written down. It's like it's really inspirational to see how analytically savvy like way more scientists than me. I'm just like confused right there. They start talking about like convections and windstorms and all these kind of things. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, you guys going? Yeah, okay, I'll follow you guys.
I'm dying to hear the conclusion. By the time you swap like the world of surfers.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And I want to know, is there a common denominator that you
Yeah.
kind of discover? Like, I'm dying to hear that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What are the final conclusions?
Yeah, so this is not published yet,
Yeah.
but what
You can only find it here.
Well, what I found out is that there is a type of ocean bacteria that is found on surfers or people who go to the ocean. And the more someone visits the ocean, the more you're going to get this kind of bacteria found on your skin. And that's something that, again, is one of these first times that people show that's an ocean fingerprint that we're finding. And surfers have helped us to understand that. And it really demonstrates through some type of empirical evidence that we are connected by the sea. Like, that's the conclusion of it. And it's just a simple example. It's not like groundbreaking or
Yeah, yeah.
you know, Nobel Prize winning, but it just provides some scientific evidence that, you know, as a Hawaiian, we say we are a part of this. We come from the ocean. The ocean means so much as a connector. But then people again are like, oh, this is mythical and like, you know, but if I'm like, well, the scientific evidence states this, they're like, oh, I get it. Okay. And then they see, wow, like these mo'olelo and stories, they're super sophisticated and they're really informative and they're important to our society on a larger whole. Maybe we shouldn't try to put away that culture to the side. Maybe we should celebrate these types of cultures, the indigenous perspective. And that surfing has become a platform for me to do that. Like, that's the biggest part of doing what I'm doing now, where like I still don't really know how to describe it, but it's like having a job from surfing, and those supporters, I tell them like, I want to go on this trip, but I also want to be able to look at the reef, and that they're even like, what do we need to do to get your science done too? It's not just, Cliff, we're going to give you the boards or the suits or whatever, the airfare. We're not just going to give you money, but we're going to help you tell your story. What is it? And I'm like, the story's about the ocean, the story's about the coral, the story's about the people. And to me, that's why like the partners that I have now, it's like they're so
What are your
incredible.
main partners right now? Your main supporters?
Yeah, so my main surf sponsor is a clothing and wetsuit company based out of California called Vissla. And I also am ambassador for Hydro Flask water bottles, Channel Island surfboards, Parlay for the Oceans, which is an ocean environmental agency, and Olukai footwear. And so those people provide me with enough support to be able to continue to share these messages of get out there and experience nature, get the best waves you can, but let's think about how we can keep those waves around. And it's like so cool because I was just surfing up on the North Shore with like John Florence and like Eli Olsen and Ivan, his brother, John's brother, and I told him like, look, we have this technology where we can take GoPros essentially and take pictures of the reef at Pipe, and you guys can see a 3D model of it. You do this every time the reef is exposed in between the swells. You can monitor your home break just by a GoPro.
Wow.
You know, and we can give you the technology that you need to do this. And not only are you, you know, getting the best waves out there, but you're also doing the best work to protect it. And by now being a part of that, I mean, not like I'm a part of that crew out there at Pipe, but I mean, to be able to have conversations with them, you know, and it's not like, I mean, I would hope they see me as like someone who's a part of the industry, you know, because like I'm
100%.
you know, it's like I think again, I'm just trying to use this surfing thing as an opportunity to do a little bit of good. Yeah, you know, do a little good, and hopefully people don't have to feel like if they want to get paid to surf, like they got to just compete. Like champions are important. I'm a big celebrator of the champions, but if you don't feel like you're going to win, because that's less than 1% of all the people who are surfers are going to be number one world champion.
Yeah.
But if that's what drives you, hey, go for it. Yeah. But if you don't really identify with that, if you feel like you want to do a little bit something else, you want to do art, or you want to do, you know, surf lessons, if you want to do something else, and you don't have to feel embarrassed that that's taken away from your ability to be like a pro surfer or a pro athlete, you know. The world is supporting people who have a diverse background and a passion to do more than just extract. You know, the industry is very much still supporting people, you know, to do what they want to do, as long as it's more than just individual. I think as a collective society, we are moving more towards community. Yeah. And the more those things, I think, can be shown in the community, and that's kind of why, like, I don't really know how to talk about it, because I don't want to seem like douchey, you know, like, oh, I like pro surfer, do what I like, you know, like, you know, I'm like, guys, like, I don't know how it happened, but I get supported to do this, and it's non-traditional, and it's not, you know, slugging away at the QS, it's not worrying about always getting the best wave out at pipe. Like, those anxieties and pressures don't really exist in my life. There's pressure to perform and deliver, but it's I just got to be the best me I got to be. I don't got to be the best surfer of the day.
Yeah, you got to beat yourself every day.
Exactly.
And not beat others.
Exactly. And 100%. Maybe, I mean, from what I listened from the podcast, martial arts and jiu-jitsu is a big theme, you know, that exists here, and it's not something I don't, you know, am taught in jiu-jitsu or anything. I don't.
Not yet.
I'm a little nervous about it, but you know, that idea, that mentality, because my cousin, he's very much a part of you know, jiu-jitsu and martial arts and that way of thinking, and I see it very similarly. Like, from the outside, there's this like, oh, jiu-jitsu, you scrapper, you're nuts, you want to fight people. But that I know from my cousin, who's very much involved and very competent in jiu-jitsu. He's so mellow and so cool, and almost like that calmness that he has is like, wow, I would want to be like that person, you know?
100%.
Minus getting wrapped up in a pretzel.
No, it's not. That's a sad part that you know, the media portray, whatever that is, UFC, that jiu-jitsu is this thing. It really is not. It's like, I started late at 42, and I've been surfing all my life. I started surfing A16 super late, and I cannot live without it. It become oxygen. And now jiu-jitsu is my water. I can't, like, those two things I must have. Yeah. I want to ask you a question, though. Why is it, have you figured this out, that when we go in the water, right, whether we're surfing, diving, in the ocean, the salty sea, it does something to us. Scientifically, have you figured out I haven't found anything to replace it. Have you? And what is it? Like, there got to be some kind of a chemical exchange physically and also emotionally. Like, I don't figure it out. It's like, it's so addicting. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's a book out there called Blue Mind, and that's research that was done in California to look at how being around water actually has a emotional imprint on us as humans. I don't really know why or how that is, but there shows there's that like emotional and kind of like behavioral enhancement by being around water, not just ocean, but, you know, tanks and, you know, whatever it is. How do I know, like, how the ocean, you know, helps us or hurts us? Like, I don't know. That's not something I studied, but there are ways that we can use science to look at it. Like, I'm just looking at one small component. There's ocean bacteria that is existing on us as surfers. Is that good or bad? I don't know. How can we figure that out? Let's just take bacteria that's found in humans who don't surf and put it with that bacteria that we found in the ocean, and let's just look at how they interact. Maybe there's some type of chemical exchange that's happening that we can look at. Like, we have the tools to see, oh, this thing is putting out like neurotransmitters that's stoking out this bacteria, or, you know, maybe this ocean bacteria is helping us to be more calm by, keeping away pathogens or viruses. Like there's all these ways to test it. I haven't done it yet, but now that we have that foundation.
Next grant.
Yeah. Well, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you want him to continue, you know where to find him. But let me ask you this. Right now you're working with the coral, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a couple of months ago, it was before Corona.
Yeah.
I took my kids to my two daughters. I took them to the submarine that goes out from the Hilton Hawaiian
the
Village.
Atlantis.
Yes, exactly. And to be honest with you, I was devastated. It's just a joke.
Yeah.
You go there for an hour and there's no coral, there's no nothing, there's barely fish, there's barely a reef, there's nothing.
Yeah. But have you gone out recently?
I mean, before Corona, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that the coral reef has been doing so much better. Like, what was it, like in June? Just like a month after all the lockdown happened.
No way.
It was coming
so
back.
So they're coming back.
Yeah.
So we are the fuckers that...
Totally. Like, that's...
So it is us.
Oh, I mean, for sure. Like, they just...
but is it a sunscreen or is it just...
I think it's again, the human imprint. It's the human. It's the ocean's not giving us enough fingerprints. We're leaving more of the fingerprint. Like, we're kind of like oppressing the situation.
Yeah.
We're encroaching on it without, like, kind of just stepping back. Where you just 1 month, like things were looking so incredible, just by the human eye. You can see the differences, the vibrancy inside of the coral. Like, the watercolor was clear, and
he's 100% correct.
That's just, I mean, it's just a
when you go to in Israel, when you go down to Eilat, right next to Sinai, Egypt, when you put your head in there, it's like you took LSD. Thousands of fishes, thousands of colors, everything is moving. I thought that once we're going to take the submarine and we're going to go down, we will see something in that kind of, caliber. But to be honest with you, I was very devastated.
Yeah.
And my kids were asking, well, what are we looking at? And I'm like, there's a rock. Yeah. And there's a rock. Yeah. There's a rock.
Well, I mean, they just put out some researchers at Arizona State University, Greg Asner and his team, they mapped all the live coral across the archipelago, the Pai'aina. And he was able to look at these variables that affected live coral. And it was 4 of them were caused by man or humans, and 3 of them can be managed to keep the coral alive. And a lot of it is just limiting the fishing pressure that we have, limiting the coastal development, and also understanding how we have our waste. That is, where is it going? And I mean, we have such a heavy footprint on our environment, and I'm not like I'm not trying to preach, because I'm just as bad as everyone else. I'm a part of this system that is incentivizing us to consume, to create waste, and I'm trying to find the best ways to navigate that. And I struggle all the time. Like, I was on the North Shore, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get an acai bowl. I went to get the bowl. Thing was all plastic. And I'm like, not even that, but where's the acai coming from? Is that coming from South America? Like, how was that?
Harvested.
How was it harvested? Yeah. What were the people who were put to work to get that?
Right.
What are the emissions to ship that berry? You know, like, so I'm not anyone to talk. I just am trying to share my journey. Like, I get it. Like, it's super hard. So what do? I broke my board in half yesterday. What do I do now? Like, do I just throw it away?
Lonnie's? Were you at Lonnie's?
No, I was Mokuleia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the West Winds.
Yeah.
Exposing. I don't actually know the names. That was my cousin. He was the one who kind of was showing me I don't really go down that side too much, but
yeah, the wind was perfect yesterday too.
Yeah, I got pounded. Maybe I was not supposed to be surfing out there. I got pounded, and then the board broke. So, like, what do? Do I add it to the waste stream, or do I fix it and try to surf it again? And my cousin's like, oh, just throw them away or leave them. And I was like, I feel like I'm gonna try at least to get it fixed, because even though it's not made out of like super sustainable materials or whatever, if I can limit the waste, then maybe that's a little help. And it's just little things, like, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out too.
It's so funny, because when Greta, when she was talking about everybody, all the haters, they were saying, oh, but she flew there, and that's carbon and yada yada yada. I'm like, well, she had to get there somewhere. We cannot be so negative and all the time, no, this is not good and this is not good. You know, it's better to try fix your board. You know, it's the best that you can do rather than just throwing it away and giving up the, you know,
Yeah.
giving straight up.
Yeah, and also I think holding the companies and the, you know, that's a lot of the partners I have. I can try to hold them accountable and saying like, look, I can't have this thing break, you know, every time. And how do we look to technology that is going to sacrifice the performance, but also still give us something that has a long-standing integrity? And that's like with Channel Island surfboards. They're about that. They're about trying to build the best crafts with the best material to last. And you know, sometimes they fall short. Like we all do. We're all human. But to me, feeling like I'm got an opportunity to do something that is like better for our island, like it makes me feel good. And I know it's like selfishly for me, but yeah, I think it's the
it's
little
kind of
things.
weird, as a surfer. Here we are, like doing this thing. So I mean, I think every surfer, if you're a surfer, you're almost like a natural inside you're like almost look at the world, the oceans differently. But yeah, you look at the tools, we ride the most toxic thing.
Yeah.
So when you made that movie Wasted, I thought it was such a beautiful thing.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, this is the guy that told his shaper, no, I don't want 10 boards, man. I just want 3. And the shaper goes, what are you talking about? What if the 3 doesn't work? And he goes, I don't care. I want to ride it. I'm going to figure it out. But I think that lens, right? And that's what I love about you is you just kind of share, look, by the end of the day, we can live with less and still have this tool that we enjoy the most. You know, we're going to leave a better imprint, you know, for the next generation. Yeah. I believe in this lifetime, I think your guys' generation is going to figure a way as a surf to build a somewhat more than 25% sustainable in the board itself. I think, I really do. I believe in that. Because technology, Elon Musk is heading this way. He's going to change whatever's going on. I think technology and these brilliant mind leaders we have today, I think it's going to influence our industry too.
Oh yeah, if if there's an incentive to be like, okay, land some front flips and become a pro surfer, like I would challenge like you find a technology that is biodegradable but also long-standing.
Yeah.
You're gonna get paid a lot of money to be a pro surfer for sure. Like there's gonna be so much brands that are gonna be just begging you to ride their boards and pay you if you have technology that you've created that is better for the planet. Like,
But is there a way to do it? There has to be.
Oh yeah, if there is, but I mean, you just got to figure it out.
I think
That's what-
Sea Eyes are doing it. Yeah, I think Brit's doing it. I think Kelly, Firewire company. Those two biggest to me, one of the 2 most admiring company.
Yeah,
they're spending a lot of time and effort to create this new technology.
Yeah, there's a organization called Sustainable Surf, and what they're doing is trying to create kind of the gold standard of what it means to be like sustainable and renewable products and things like that. They're amazing people at that organization. I definitely support what they're doing, but I also try to share with them how can we push that beyond 25? How do we get beyond 40? And the problem is right now is if you go any more bio or eco or whatever, you lose that integrity. You know, we just think about, how much times can something be recycled before you can't recycle it anymore? And that's the big issue that, a lot of the surfboard manufacturers are doing, and the scale of finding something that will break down but not too soon, where you can have a long-standing board. So there's so many parts of the solution that I think collectively, if we just support those types of thinking, and also it's like right now the surf industry like supports guys who ride like boards from back in the day, like boards that are 30, 40 years old.
Yeah.
Like people have a career now just surfing those boards where they only have like 3 or 4 boards, and they getting paid to surf. Like what's the end goal? And I guess maybe for me, and I could be off here, it's like to make a living out of just surfing.
Yeah.
Like that's like what the dream is when you're a kid. And things change as you get older, but if that's the goal, like I think for the youth, I guess that are maybe listening, or maybe parents who have, young surfers that they want to pursue or go into the industry. The industry is just so broad now that you don't have to just be a world champion to get supported. You don't have to have the 50 board contract. You don't have to beat everyone. You don't have to do the front flips. You could also contribute to surf industry, still get celebrated as one of the best surfers if you achieve that level of athleticism.
Yeah.
But it's like there's just more ways to approach it, and I guess I keep saying it, but I really hope that the future generation don't get stuck in this thing that we're very familiar with in the surf industry of people who have a lot of success or perceived success in their early career, and once that career starts to move into a different phase and maybe twilight years of their career, there's a lot of emotional trauma and anger and issues that are happening, and I feel like that can be avoided if we don't just support these kids to just be these contest winning machines, and then at 25 when they stop winning they're done and they're no good. Like, I don't think that's right, and the industry is the one that's it's doing that, not the
dictating
kid. It's not the surfers. They just want to be able to be a part of it. And if there's people in the industry that are stepping up and saying, I'm doing well for myself and for my family by doing this, and I don't have to win contests, I don't have to puff my chest and be an angry Hawaiian, I don't gotta be like I'm better than anyone. You get paid to be cool, and like legit cool, where like people are gonna call you names and people aren't gonna understand what you're doing, and you just gotta be like okay with it, because at the end of the day, what's your original 14-year-old dream that you had? You wanted to just surf and not have to, you know, feel like that's being taken away from you. And I think maybe that's what it's more, and I never really vocalize it. I think as surfers, we just don't want to feel like it's getting taken away. When we got to get a 9 to 5, gotta, you know, some people, I mean, I help out my friends do their, you know, cements and floors and stuff like that just because they're my friends and I'm learning it, and like they love doing it. They love making their house nice. They love the craft, the trade, automotive, mechanics. Like, they love what they do. When it becomes a job is when they feel it's getting taken away from their surf time, and that's when they get like upset and bitter. Where like I think sometimes they think, oh, if I could just surf the whole time and I choose, then it's the dream, you know.
Yeah, but I think I mean really, Cliff, thanks to you, Rasta, Jerry Lopez, the Malloy's brothers, like all these young, this whole new group of generation of surfers. Because in the old days, the 80s, 90s, about winning, you know, all that. But the industry is slowly changing, and thanks to you, because now you paint a new direction for the Groms that are growing up. Hey, but I think the common denominator between you and Rasta and Jerry, like, yes, you got to be a credible surfer. The second piece that I think all company loves and is like, hey, what are they doing for the goodness of a whole as an industry, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? Well, and thanks to you, I mean, all you guys.
Well, I think even before that, like it's going back to maybe what it started when surfing was just this like mega influential culture. Like you're talking about like Larry Bertelman, Watkins, like Dane Aloha. Like they I mean, they would want to win contests, but you weren't getting paid a lot to win contests. You were getting paid to be like cultural icons, which they are. They are so influential. And how do they do it? They were focusing on the lifestyle and celebrating, you know, and
the joy of surf.
You know, I think that's the future for sure.
I think what you share with us today was like, if I can take away, it is like, look, there's a side of you growing up knowing that, God, there's two passion, one passion with surfing, but yet the world sees surfer was like this dumb smoking pot, you know, uneducated, right? And there's a side of you with science, right? And somehow you kind of almost like, oh my God, if I tell them all science, they could think I'm a kook, I can't surf, right? So you live in this like, I better keep these two separately and then you want your surfing to speak on its own level, not because you got a PhD and you're like, you know, super humble, but super smart too, you know, and also same thing. If you're a scientist, and they know you're a surfer, they don't think you're like credible because, what? You know, scientists don't surf. And I think it's the first time I see this beautiful union. Now, look, we can be whoever we want, whatever the passion is, but just have this thought is, hey, look, whatever that is we're doing, just being goodness to the world. Be a steward with that, whatever your passion is. Yours happen to be the ocean. And thank God for that, Cliff, because for all the surfer out there, we're thank you, because our grandson's gonna have this beautiful thing to get to ride and surf and share and bring joy to his family and his own life, because of you guys, all you guys, and that's a beautiful thing. So you don't have to do one or the other, but you must surf humanity and you must surf Mother Nature, right?
Amen.
Yeah, I think it's fucking insane, man. Listen.
Well, there's a lot of things that I still wanted to talk about, but we gotta kind of cap it just because Cliff was late.
And you can be late anytime. It's so awesome.
But
Oh
quick,
my God.
before we're gonna finish the show, I just want to ask you a quick thing, two quick things. One, quick point of view on Mauna Kea, and two, quick point of view on Corona. Make it quick. Just give us a little bit of insight.
Yeah, Mauna Kea with the 30-meter telescope
Yeah.
construction. So for me, the reason why I'm in opposition for the current construction of 30-meter telescope on Mauna Kea is that it's conservation land, federally designated by the U.S. Constitution, and also is our own culturally sanctioned sacred spot. I think using science as a means to further develop these protected areas is not something that I want to support currently in my life. Even as a scientist and as a Hawaiian, I don't feel, it has nothing to do with the technology, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's primarily about development, especially on island. You know, we have to think about alternative ways to not keep building, but in order maybe transforming what we already have. And that's just a mindset.
Very wise.
That,
I love you for saying that, because I'm telling you, what you said at the beginning of the show is so powerful. When we lose our culture, we lose our identity.
yeah.
That place
Yeah.
is culture perpetuated for thousands of years.
Do you think
We just got to find another place to do it, because
Yeah.
I do believe it's great for humanity, but not in the sacrifice of a culture. Man, you kill a culture, that's it. It's done. And we've done enough of that in our lifetimes as humans.
100%?
Beautiful, man. I love you.
100%.
Love you too,
And
dude.
give us your little take on Corona.
Oh, Corona that's the reason why I'm late. I had to go. I had to get my test
got-
before I got on the airplane.
Yeah,
I was
you got
like,
excused. Yeah, you're excused.
It's a good excuse.
yeah, I mean, the coronavirus, like, it definitely has changed our social condition as we see it. We all know that, you know, things are different. Some people it's good, some people it's bad. For me, looking at it, this is very in line with how nature works. You have a huge population, disease starts to find a way to find equilibrium back. So it's like, you know, I'm not saying it's supposed to happen or that's the way it is. It makes sense that as a population we're approaching 7 billion.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be some environmental conditions, whether we like it or not, that's going to start to restore the balance. And I think if we're preventative in trying to figure out any problem before it starts to, you know, instead of being reactive, I think we'll have a better way to get through it, you know. And that's just not like trying to point at other people and you know, I think like the divisiveness of it is the most bummer for me. It's
100%.
not so much the rules, and the rules suck and there's all these things that you got to follow, but I don't want to be like, because you think you should wear a mask, you think you shouldn't, and hate each other for that. It's like people are, you know, fighting for way more things than a mask. Why are we fighting over that? Like, we should stop thinking about the fight and think about, okay, how do we just do stuff together? And to me, like, I don't agree with certain people in administration. I don't agree with certain people in policy and health, but I'm a part of this, and if I want to change it, then I need to take the necessary steps to start thinking about the system that I want to see changes in, or I gotta be okay with it, you know.
Oh, I think what you say is so powerful, because it's like, when this happened, we gotta stop and look inward as humans and go, what happened? Well, we're the one who caused this. So Mother Nature kind of go, hey, you gotta quit fucking with me, because you keep fucking the earth, fucking everything else, and keep overpopulate the world with no consequences. So Mother Nature go, and that's all it is, right?
Mother Nature, that's if you believe in the hoax that it came from the bat.
Unless
You know?
I was in the lab.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah, but I think what Cliff said is so powerful. Hey, look, let's just observe. Let's take some time and think of what we have done, you know, to the earth and the ocean. And maybe this is a lesson for all of us. Rather than go this and that, who cares? We can do this since the beginning of time. Stop it. Take a look and change the way we live. Change the way we respond to the earth.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do something different. Hopefully, you guys, children and grandchildren, don't have to go through this shit.
Yeah.
Because this is ever first time happening, you know, since 19 whatever, you know.
But I think it's like we're all getting kind of, if we're getting screwed, we're kind of all getting screwed. Yeah. Together, you know, so it's like, how do you kind of just make sure your community
Yes.
is okay? And like
Yes.
that's, I think, is a bigger, like, oh yeah, we're all getting screwed together, but at least we're still good with each other.
Yeah.
I think that's like a powerful thing that
I'm a
you
true
know.
believer that, you know, I saw it a lot lately, that they say aloha will heal the world.
Mm.
And I truly believe that if everybody would be, you know, in that mode,
Mm.
it would have been a better world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If everybody just want to have fun, and I don't care what fun you have, I just care about the fun that I have.
Yeah.
That we both have fun and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
It's the people that care what fun you have.
Yeah.
That kind of starts to deteriorate.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have fun with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to Cliff early on when he shared your science project,
Yeah.
I mean, listen carefully. He goes, look, people took him in. Aloha exists universally.
Mm-hmm.
But it was you who approached your journey, your travel, every spot with aloha. Hence, the universe respond, humanity respond.
Agree.
So it's not a Hawaii thing, right?
Yeah, no,
right.
it's
True,
global.
not true.
It's
Look
a
how
global
how
thing.
many places you and I travel and see the world and everything. And there is the connection, though. You know somebody's from the island, you right away. I don't care. Could be a quarter, 2 blocks away, and you just smile. There's that boom. You open the mouth, the pigeon comes on, and you just celebrate that deep love from 1,000 years ago.
100%.
Yeah. God damn it, you got to come back, man. I want to know. I want to get geeky in this shit.
Cliff,
Yeah, it's so awesome, man.
we have reached about 90 minutes, and we will have. It was fast. It was pretty fast. You know, Dewey and I would like to show you our appreciation. Thank you for coming in.
And mochi from Big Island,
And
from
thank you for
Hilo.
bringing us mochi from Hilo.
You're very welcome.
We wanted to award you our the Aloha Hour Hama Award. We truly believe you won Hama.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you for everything you do. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you know, the way you chose to live life and the way you chose to influence the community. It's very
Yeah, it's extremely inspiring. And do me a favor
motivating.
when you get back to Hilo, look up Roma Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
go see
yeah.
Kavika. I swear, it would change your life. Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu is not like that at all. And I'm telling you, for something about it is so addicting that I cannot explain. Right? It's not with Mother Nature, but it's really internal. You're that guy. Just do it.
100%.
Please.
And before we're going to let you go,
Yeah.
we're going to have what would you rather questions that we put for you so we can leave off in a very uplifting vibe. Cliff Capono, what would you rather? Live in ancient times or come back in 100 years?
Oh. Wait, come back in 100 years?
Yeah,
What does
so
that mean?
you come back in the
year
future
2121.
Oh,
That's a good one.
I would like to be optimistic and say come back in 100 years and see the improvement.
Ah, the scientist came out. Love that.
Right on,
Okay.
right on.
That's a good question.
What would you rather? Have 20 tarantulas in your bedroom or 1,000 crickets running around your house?
Probably 1,000 crickets because we already got coqui frogs. You know, might as well
That'd
add
be gone. Yeah,
add
that'd be
some
gone in a
crickets in
day.
there. Yeah.
All right, we have a tough one. What would you rather? Shave your head or shave your legs?
Probably shave my legs.
I knew it. You gotta leave that dread, bro.
This is not. It's a lot easier probably than cutting this off. You know.
All right, what would you rather? Give up surfing for a month or give up your smartphone for a year?
Smartphone for a year.
Yeah,
give
done.
it up
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
He would die. He would shovel him in the corner.
Solid. All right, what would you rather? Have a university named after you or a Nike signature shoe?
Oh,
Nah,
neither. I don't know.
Great answer.
I
Great
don't know.
answer.
I don't need maybe a shoe that was named after maybe a Hawaiian wave or something like that. I'll take the shoe. Yeah.
Right on. Well, Cliff Capono, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your humbleness. Thank you for blessing us with all your knowledge and, you know, sharing with us those 90 minutes.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. You got to come back. Seriously, you got to come back.
100%.
There's so
Well,
much-
every time
you're
you're-
so humble.
every
There's
time
so
you're on
much in there.
Oahu,
Yeah.
We'll meet.
Yeah.
We set you up in the hotel.
Thank you so
You can
much,
come
yeah.
in and talk
Yeah.
story.
You know what that's going to be? Southwell Kaiser. And you come back in the winter.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Well, once you're here, we're going to have you again.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you.
Happy New Year and happy
New Year.
holidays, everyone.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. I
Happy
know it's the
New
first
Year.
podcast after the
The
New Year.
first
Right on.
podcast. You're right.
Oh,
Cliff.
awesome.
We got Cliff.
Cliff Capono celebrating with us the New Year's. All right.
right.
Thank you very much. We're out. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Dewey.
All right.
Thank
Much
you,
love,
Cliff.
Cliff. Thank
Follow
you.
Dewey.
All
Let's
right.
do this. We're out.